that's okay. Michaela, are we ready for that?
We are ready.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We are meeting at the Salt Lake City Planning Commission, May 12th, 2021. And I'm going to read a declaration about our meeting. I, Brenda Shear, Chair of Salt Lake City Planning Commission, hereby determine that conducting public meetings at an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. Due to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention social distancing requirements, I find that conducting a meeting at the anchor location constitutes a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the location. So thank you all for coming. Michaela, would you like to tell people again about how to access the meeting if they're watching on TV or in some other way?
I'd be happy to. Marlene, would you mind sharing that screen just super briefly for those that may be watching from home? This is an electronic meeting. Yep, perfectly. You can join the link. We're going to take this screen down pretty quickly, but you can visit our website and join a link. Go to Salt Lake City Planning Commission May 12th agenda. And that's slc.gov/public meetings/planning commission agendas. Find tonight's agenda, and that link is right there as soon as this goes down. If you have any comments, if you need to leave the meeting, but you want to leave a comment for the record, we can read that for you. Or if you need some sort of assistance, we are monitoring our email. Please send an email to planning.comments@slcgov.com. It looks like we have a number of attendees on tonight, so can you go to the next screen, please, Marlene? When the chair opens the public hearing and you would like to speak, I will be looking at this list of your names and I need to see your hand up. And if you look at the screen, there's a tiny little red box with a hand. Please click that hand so we know that you want to speak to that matter. And when you're done speaking, if you could actually put your hand down, that would also be helpful. Thank you. Thanks, Marlene.
Thanks, Michaela. So I'm going to call for an approval of the minutes for April 28th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that the minutes be approved for April 28th, 2021.
Thank you, Carolyn. Glad you're here.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, John. So I have a motion from Carolyn and second from John. So we'll go through Maureen.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Adrian.
Yes.
Carolyn.
Agree.
John.
Yes.
Matt.
Yes.
Is Andres here? No. Okay. Thank you.
I'm
All
helping
right,
you get on, Brenda.
Okay.
Okay.
The motion passes 6-0. And now for the report of the chair and the vice chair, I have nothing to report. Amy, vice chair, do you have anything?
I also have nothing.
Thank you. And the report of the director, Michaela?
I don't have anything to report. John, do you have anything to report?
Nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll start with our first public hearing tonight, the Neighborhood House Greenhouse at approximately 1050 West, 500 South. It is case number PLN PCM 2021-00086. And it will be presented by Sarah Javoronak.
Thank you, Chair. Could you give me the presenter control? Thank you.
I'm doing that right now.
I got it.
It's
Thanks.
slow ball to pass. Thanks. Sorry, Sarah.
No problem. So thank you. This is a proposal for a plan development. Hold on just one second. For a greenhouse at Neighborhood House at 1050 West to 500 South. You can see the property and the proposed location of the greenhouse on the aerial photo. Neighborhood House is located on the north side of 500 South. It's east of the Jordan River and west of Goshen Street. The site is approximately 5.5 acres, and the property and the surrounding, the property is zoned institutional, and the surrounding properties are primarily zoned residential. The proposal is for a 20 by 48 foot, 960 square feet total greenhouse with a height of approximately 17 feet. The plan development is required because the proposal does not meet the required corner side yard setback that the greenhouse is set back as far as the principal structure on the site. The photograph on the left shows the location of the proposed greenhouse. It would be located to the right of the portion of the building that has brick on the first floor and in front of this portion of the building. As you can see in the photo on the right, the primary access to Neighborhood House is from the two entrances that face 500 South. These photos show the adjacent properties. The photo on the left shows the house to the north, and the proposed greenhouse would be set back approximately 9 feet further from the front facade of this building. And the photo on the right shows the houses across the street from the proposed greenhouse. In this slide on the left is the site plan for the proposal. The greenhouse is shown to the upper right, and the principal building is to the left. You can see how the proposed location would meet the required setback for the zone of 20 feet, but would not be set back as far as the principal building, which is what the ordinance requires for accessory structures. And then the photograph on the right is of a similar greenhouse and shows the materials and massing of the structure. On this slide, the top image is the Goshen Street elevation and shows the proposed greenhouse in context with the principal structure. You can see that it's located to the rear of the front portion of the building. And the bottom image shows the 500 South elevation and the location of the proposed greenhouse to the east of the principal structure. And so in the staff report, there are two issues that were identified. The first is compliance with adopted master plans, and staff finds that the proposal is consistent with Plan Salt Lake and the West Side Master Plan. Consistent with Plan Salt Lake, Neighborhood House provides neighborhood services and amenities as well as opportunities for social interaction. And consistent with the West Side Master Plan, Neighborhood House has invested in the community and is listed in the plan itself as a community resource. The second issue is the requested modification to the required setback. And prior to the submittal of the plan development application, staff and the applicant explored several alternatives, including one would be to move the greenhouse to the west, which was not preferred because it would block sunlight and take away from existing program spaces. And a second was to construct a connection from the principal structure to the greenhouse, making it a part of the principal structure. And this was not preferred because it would require modifications to existing doors and windows. It would also require significant costs to redesign and construct. In addition, it would block sunlight to the greenhouse. And so after exploring these alternatives, the applicants decided to move forward with a plan development request for the greenhouse in the preferred location. So far, staff has heard from 3 members of the public on this proposal. 2 of those emails were included with the staff report, and 1 was in the Dropbox folder, and all were in support of the proposal. And its planning staff's recommendation is for approval with the conditions included in the staff report. And that includes staff's presentation. Are there questions for staff at this point? I think you may want to unmute if you're speaking.
I'm sorry. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Yes, the applicant's here.
Okay.
Hi, yes, Jennifer Nuttall. I'm the executive director at Neighborhood House. I'm not sure how to show you a quick PowerPoint. I don't know if it's necessary, but we do have one prepared.
Jennifer,
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. This is Michaela from planning. I just gave you like presenter privileges.
Okay,
Are you able to share now?
let's see. Looks like it. Let me
Great.
know if I see it.
Looks like it's coming.
All right, so can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Great. I just wanted to give a little bit of a background on Neighborhood House. We've been around for a long time, since 1894, 2 years before Utah was even a state. We were in the West Side providing services to families who were striving to get a foothold in our community. We still continue to do that in providing daycare for children and adults on a sliding fee scale, so that it is accessible for everyone. We've played an instrumental role also in helping get people back on their feet after the coronavirus, because of daycare is an essential piece of that for them to get back to their jobs and working up the economic ladder. We were founded by Emma McVicker. There's a lovely picture of her. We have several programs. We have a toddler and preschool program, starts at 15 months and goes up to school age, so 5 years old, where we get children ready for preschool. So for school, I'm sorry. So it's an accredited preschool. We are there 11 hours a day so that we're able to be there for the parent, as well as to help break that intergenerational cycle of poverty by providing the opportunities to these kids that they deserve and need to be able to be successful. Additionally, we provide a youth program that goes from kindergarten up through 6th grade. This is year round. We're here all of the time. So even when school's out of session, we're here for that family who doesn't get those breaks from work and needs somewhere for their kids to be. We provide STEM, we provide academic support, tutoring, social emotional, and really just work to give them the opportunities they might not otherwise have access to. We provide adult daycare. That started in 1978, when that started to become something nationwide, where people realized that if you're caring for an aging or disabled adult, you have the same kind of barriers that you do when you are caring for a young one, in that you need someone or for them to be during the day so that you can work, you can make ends meet, and you can work without disruptions with caregiving. And then just recently in our new building, we added a family support center where we provide wraparound services to make sure that other needs are met by other community partners, but we're the connector to make sure these families are getting the resources that are already offered and getting access to them and being able to thrive in their families. So what we're doing with this garden and the intergenerational greenhouse is that we are providing programming that's specifically geared and intentionally geared towards the social emotional development of our children and the engagement of our adults, and being able to bring them together in a gardening setting with fresh foods, helping them make the connection between where their food comes from, also doing sensory plants that help stimulate different senses. It's all a therapeutic approach to enhance the programming that we already provide and allow our populations access to growing their own food, growing beautiful things, and having a sensory therapeutic experience, not only just with their peers, but intergenerationally between children and adults. This is our new facility. And this is part of that expansion that we had this vision of having the sensory garden and the greenhouse, and then ran into a little bit of difficulties, not quite meeting that requirement on that side. So that's why we're asking for the exception. So we serve 543 kids and adults annually. We provide 93,000 meals, nutritious meals, to all of our children and adults while they're in our care. We do 250 hours of STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math, to help give our young adults a chance at those kinds of careers as they grow. We serve veterans, and 93% of our families are low income. And that's just not at the low income cutoff. That goes down to the very low and extremely low category for the majority of our clients. So being able to bring the neighborhood, this new building, and being able to finish it by doing the greenhouse and the gardening, we'll be able to bring volunteers in to do different groups from the community who are able to come in. We'll have a vegetable and fruit garden, we'll have the sensory garden, and it'll be an amazing improvement to the community to our neighborhood and to the programming that we're able to provide, that we do so through fundraising. So we've had to go out to the community and show that this program is quality, that it's effective, that it does what it's meant to do. And then we're funded to be able to bring these families in and allow them to have these experiences. So there's our campus, which we're very proud of. And again, fundraise the money to get that built. And we were able to add all of these different enhanced spaces, one of which is the intergenerational greenhouse and sensory garden, which we hope to get approval for so that we can move forward and offer this space to our community and to our clients. We'll have horticulture therapy, again, intergenerational gardening programs that will emphasize the people-plant connection in supporting both the health, wellness, and environmental stewardship of the land. This is the plan for it. It's going to be really a beautiful space that will greatly enhance, again, the neighborhood as well as what we can offer to our community. Any questions for me?
Are there any questions for the applicant? From commissioners? If not, thank you so much for your presentation. That was very helpful. And so we are now going to open up the public hearing. Would anyone in the public like to speak? If you would, there's a little hand on the right side of your screen down sort of toward the bottom. I just push that little hand.
Madam Chair, I have one hand up. It's Justin Strange. Justin, I'm going to unmute you.
Hello, thank you for listening to me real fast. I know I only have a couple minutes, so I'm just going to talk real fast. I talked to a lot of my neighbors about this. I live on Goshen Street, and I gotta tell you, like, a lot of people in this neighborhood don't even know what the neighborhood house does. And so when you hear this talk about the neighborhood and how they're supporting the neighborhood, people don't even know what what the services even are. And no one in this neighborhood has actually been approached and talked about how this organization can even do things. Like, also, this construction has taken 2 years. It's created a huge amount of traffic on the street. We've had animals hit. There's definitely safety issues. There's been no concern whatsoever about cars speeding up and down this road. The neighbor, the house on the north side, that's where that greenhouse is going to go, those people, those poor people have been terrorized the last 2 years with just constant noise, constant, like, there was like a machine they were using to pound like the foundation, and it was like shaking all these old houses. During the earthquake, the construction company had people on scaffolding while tremors were going on. There's no concern for those workers. There has been just one thing after another. And like, I think that, like, if neighborhood house really wants real support from this neighborhood, they should maybe, if you're going to cause a lot of traffic going on there, maybe help us put in some speed bumps in this road to keep cars from speeding up and down the road. You know, if you want us to feel like you're more part of the neighborhood, like, maybe go to some of our old poor neighbors here. I have an 80-year-old neighbor. Maybe he could use some help. I don't know, but maybe, I don't know what you guys can, no one knows what you guys really do. But that's just my concerns, and that's after talking with numerous neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is it all right for me to respond to that? This is Jennifer.
As soon as we close the public hearing, you can respond.
Okay.
I don't see any other hands up from the public. And we do not have any emails, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion. And Jennifer, if you would like to respond
Yeah, I would love
to the neighborhood's concerns.
Yes, absolutely. So we actually have gone out and talked to our neighbors multiple, I would say 3 times or 4 times during this process. So we let them know construction was going to be starting. We gave them cards to say who to call if there were any problems, so they could call directly to the construction company. We took gift baskets out to them around Christmas time to thank them for their patience with this. And we just recently went and talked to them all about the greenhouse. And we talked to about 5 different families that we found at home that were all in support and love what we do. We actually found one elderly woman who didn't know what we do, and we told her about the services and that she could actually come and be a part of our adult day services. She was Spanish speaking, and of course we were lucky to have a Spanish speaker with us on our outreach because we recognize the diversity of languages within our community. And within our staff, we employ a large group of Latinos and Spanish speakers so that we were prepared for that conversation. We're able to talk to her in her language and invite her to come and be a part of it. So I'm sorry if Justin doesn't feel like he's been included in that, but we have absolutely made huge outreach. We have one resident who lives on Goshen. She's lived there for 20 years. And she actually now works for us. She's been working for us for 2 years now and loves Neighborhood House. We also have one who's a client who's just a couple houses off of Goshen and Fifth South. They're clients, so they're very involved. And the majority of our kids come from the 84104 zip code, so they absolutely are in our community. And we are, in fact, a very neighborhood-based and community-based organization. I'd say more so than most. So not sure where he's coming up with that, but we'd love speed bumps too. If he wants to help get speed bumps, we'd love to talk about speed bumps. But yeah, I just don't see that as being the truth of our experience in the community whatsoever, nor our legacy.
Thank you.
For that.
Actually, I think not at this point. We've already closed the
Yeah.
public hearing, so we've heard you, and I think that the commissioners have enough to go on to make the decision at this point. So I'm going to bring it back to the commission for further discussion or a motion.
I just want to point out that in our packet, we did get a letter of support from the resident who lives directly north of the greenhouse. So I think we do have some indication that there is neighborhood support for the project.
Yes, we have more than one letter of support.
Yes, agreed. So I'm ready to make a motion unless anyone has anything else they want to discuss.
Anyone else want to say anything? Go ahead, Adrian.
Okay. And thank you, Jennifer, for your presentation. That was very insightful, and I didn't realize this service was available in Salt Lake, so that's great to know. So based on the information in the staff report, the information presented, and the input received during the public hearing, I move that the Planning Commission approve the Neighborhood House Greenhouse Plan Development PLN PCM 2021-00086 with the conditions listed in the staff report.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Adrian and a second by Carolyn. So we will now do a roll call vote. Maureen?
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, Maureen?
Yes.
Thank you. Amy?
Yes.
Adrian?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes, and I'd like to say it's a wonderful organization. 20 years ago, my son was part of your group, and I'm very pleased with how you guys have grown.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Carolyn.
John?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Andres? Was Andres able to get on? Okay. We have a positive vote, 6-0, so the motion passes. And we'll move on to our second item on the agenda, which is the modifications to the 21's design review at approximately 2105 East, 2100 South, case number PLN PCM 2019-01170. And we have Chrissy presenting this, Christina Gilmore.
Thank you. Michaela, it looks like I lost the ability to share my screen. Let me get the fallback. There we go.
You good? Okay, great, thank you.
Yep, I think that worked. Okay, so this is a request for modifications to a design review approval at approximately 2105 East, 2100 South. Planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the proposed modifications. In September 2020, Rockworth Companies received design review approval for a new mixed-use development due to building size limits in the CB Community Business Zoning District. Buildings in excess of 7,500 gross square feet of floor area on the first floor are only allowed through the design review process. The applicant also requested review from the underlying relief from the underlying zoning district height to provide a greater variation in the facade design and to account for the slope of the site. The applicant requested to extend the parapet walls and cornices to a height of 37 feet 6 inches at the tallest point from average finish grade. The applicant submitted building plans, and the new plans show some modifications to the structures that deviate from what was previously approved by the commission. Some minor changes can be approved administratively by the planning director, but those are very limited. The requested modifications are not considered minor, and that is why the proposed modification is before the commission. A full list of those modifications is available in your staff report, but to generally cover the proposed modifications, the first modification relates to the footprint of the north building. There are two buildings, a north and a south building, and this is for the north building. And there was a shift to accommodate a step in the finished grade on the north face of the building. The location of this step in grade was shifted to the east to avoid conflict with electrical gear on the adjacent property. I've shown the shift highlighted in yellow on your screen, so you can see that it just went slightly to the east on the bottom image. So here is the elevation view, which is a little bit clearer. You can see that the inset area in the dark brown shifted to the east, as well as the step in grade. This change caused a modification in the layout and footprint of the building. It also caused a modification to the internal units, which changed the window layout as well as the gridded pattern fell off or was removed. Additionally, this added a rooftop patio. So on that bottom image, you can see a little bit that there is now a outdoor rooftop patio for the residents. And you can also see that balconies were added to the elevation. So similar to the north elevation, the south elevation of building 2 also had some changes to the material placement and design. The window layout changed to accommodate changes to the interior units, and they also lost the gridded pattern. Balconies were also added and changed. The east and west elevations of building 2 also changed for several reasons. First, the third level patio on the east elevation was reduced in size to accommodate a second egress to the stairs and to conform with building code requirements. Windows were modified to coincide with internal unit changes, as well as change in design with the removal of window grids. Additional balconies and doors were also added. Changes to the west elevation include a reduction and shift in windows to accommodate the unit layout and the addition of a second entrance. The west elevation still includes the ADA ramp and platforms shown on the above image, but they are just not shown on the bottom right image. Changes to the south building, which is building 1, largely do not change the original approval and are more modern than those changes on building 2. These changes include the removal of a wood trellis at level 2 to comply with the building code, which doesn't allow structures on rooftops that are occupied. Some light fixture changes, window grids were eliminated, a short brick wall was added to enclose the outdoor areas, and these stairs were enclosed, but windows were added. And then here are some site photos just as a reminder and to give some site context. So there's a view of 2100 South facing east on the top left. The bottom left is also 2100 South facing east. Then on the top right, we have 2100 South facing west. And in the bottom is a view of the abutting property to the north. So the modified design incorporates elements that emphasize the human scale, such as the addition of balconies, building articulation, architectural elements, and maintains transparency at the ground level. The building massing is broken up into smaller components and is designed to maintain compatibility with surrounding buildings, some of which are smaller in scale. The building to north elevation of now steps a little bit more than it did before and includes an addition of a new outdoor seating area, which is more compatible with the height of the neighboring buildings than the original proposal. So staff is recommending approval of the modifications and feels that the project is largely and substantially similar to what was originally approved. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Chrissy at this time? Is the applicant here?
Yes, I believe I saw them. Let me see.
Yes.
Yes,
And,
Ryan's here.
Ryan, are you making a presentation?
Sarah, I don't know if, so Sarah is also representing, I'm the architect, did the drawings that you just reviewed. Is Sarah, are you on?
She is.
I don't know that we necessarily have a presentation. I think Chrissy did a pretty good job. The packet included the kind of a little more detailed list. I think she did a pretty good job of distilling all that information. I would say that we're very much in conformance with what was approved back last fall, and we hope you agree.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant or staff at this time before we move on to the public hearing? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak, please push the little hand button.
Could I jump in one more thing? I am getting text from Sarah saying she's trying to talk, but she's not able to, she's not unmuted, not been unmuted.
Sarah, you can unmute and mute yourself when you're a panelist, but I just unmuted you right now. Did you have something to
Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you a little bit. You're breaking up.
Oh, shoot. I just wanted to thank Chrissy for the great presentation. We really appreciate you guys all coming back to the table to hear us again. So again, Brian's on, I'm on. We would love to take any questions.
Thank you. So I do have a question actually for the applicant, the architect, which is when you say the gridded pattern on the windows is being removed, is that the Mentons?
You know, there's several little tiny names that people use, but yeah, just the little grids inside the windows.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak to this project?
Sorry, I do not see any hands up, Madam Chair, and no emails.
Michaela, it looks like Judy Short from the Community Council is here. She hasn't raised her hand, but she may be wanting to speak to this.
Oh, thanks, John. Judy, would you like to speak to this matter? Judy? Judy, are you there? Okay, I'm going to mute her. I'm going to guess she's doesn't.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for discussion or a motion.
I'm just going to make a general comment that perhaps I am blind, stupid, whatever tonight, but I don't understand exactly what's changing. I can't really visualize it from what we've been given in our packet, and until I really understand it or can see it, I'm not inclined to support it. But that's maybe just me not really getting what's happening here.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions, or if there's specific areas where you want me to pull out
You know, Chrissy, I honestly, from the renderings in the packet, I don't get what's changing enough. So I don't even know what to ask you, like to clarify more. For me, visually, those renderings aren't really helping me understand why this is a significant change that warrants it to come before us. I just don't understand that part, and I don't think there's anything that you did that has confused me. I just visually cannot really get this, and why is it substantial? If it's so substantial enough to come back to us, I don't think I'm seeing the reasoning behind that with the renderings that are in the packet. So I just think, for me, that it's insufficient.
Chrissy, this is Tom. Is it okay for me to speak?
Yes, it is.
Amy, we appreciate that comment and we appreciate Chrissy's review. We agree with you. I think it's just a code trigger that I think Chrissy's words were the changes are not considered minor. I think according to the code, we certainly consider them very minor. However, the code is as it is. The project hasn't changed in use, massing, building height, density. It's the same project. Very, very minor changes that are just the result of full design.
I might be the only one with this problem, and so I don't want to make you go through and really explain it more. If the other commissioners feel good about it, then it's me, and that's fine. So I would like to hear from the other commissioners if they share that sentiment, and if they don't, then we can wrap it up.
Well, I think one of the things that's important to notice, this is happening on the north side of the north building. And so this is probably the least obvious elevation change, and it's mostly a change that has to do with shifting where the building steps down. So I don't see, other than the issue I just raised with the architect about the muntins changing, which does change what they call the grid on the windows, which are those little glass different lights. It's hard to explain. Panes of glass that break up a window. That's going to be a design change. Is it going to be a change in the look of the building? But I don't know that it's important enough. You can see it on page 4 better than you can see it elsewhere, where you see east elevation sort of before, and the west elevation, excuse me, the west elevation before does have those muntins on the windows, and it doesn't after. So again, and then there's some minor changes to the way the actual building material massing is arranged, but it was kind of arbitrary to begin with. So I don't see those as big issues.
And just for, Amy or anyone else, like the code is pretty limited on what, like after you as a planning commission, as a body with this design review, I mean, it's very specific on what sort of changes we can administratively as staff change. Like if there's like a width of, a brick course or something like that was 12 inches, but now it needs to be 8 inches. That's a sort of like minor type of alteration. Let's say there's some sort of yellow textured brick or something that has now been discontinued, and an architect comes back and shows us like a rose colored yellow brick. We could administratively approve that, or if there's like a small fire code issue. But these plans are approved by you all. We can't go too far administratively when it comes to like massing and shifting around of facades coupled with window changes and other big design review items. They have to build essentially what you approve. And it's sort of similar to the Landmark Commission. There might be like a shortening of a balcony, but even a small balcony, we might have to take back to the Landmark Commission because we don't have the authority. That would bump an application back to the actual body that approved it. I hope that helps.
It does. So, thank you, Brenda, for pointing me to page 4. I actually like our version better. And so I'm wondering,
Too.
a lot better actually. I'm wondering, I mean, that's the problem I'm having is all of these other massive changes. Are they making any substantial difference to the way this looks like it is on page 4, or is moving the electrical box, not doing anything? Or just the renderings really don't hone in on that for me. Page 4 is pretty good. So I'm wondering if like we can break up the parts that we're like, yeah, we're okay to change that. No, we're not okay to change this. Or if it's like the full thing. Cause I don't know. I feel a little hesitant on this one just because I really am not sure exactly everything that I'm approving.
Well,
Staff?
Based on what we did last time, and on page 4, I actually really do prefer our original version.
If I could jump in, this is Ryan again. I think, again, just to reiterate, I think the point that you're making that the changes aren't significant is exactly what we're saying. They're not significant changes.
Well,
The
I didn't
project
mean
is
to imply that, Ryan. I meant to imply I didn't understand what the significance part was, and Michaela spelled that out for me. I wasn't trying to insinuate that I didn't feel these changes were big or small. I had no opinion on that part. I wasn't fully understanding exactly what was triggering it to come here, is what my point was.
And staff analyzes the project against those design review standards once again. And maybe we can talk offline if we have a sort of similar project to see how we can go point by point, perhaps.
No, you explained the
in a
theory
different
of
way.
it well, Michaela.
Okay.
I think I just feel muddied on this one. That's all. It's just because it's a big project. I'm just really trying to focus in on what exactly are we changing, and do I like some of it? Do I not like some of it? And I'm a little overwhelmed with the different parts to really understand exactly what I would be voting on.
Right. Does anyone else have any comments or considerations? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'm willing to make a motion. I understand Amy's concerns. But my initial reaction was that they were required by the code, but were not significant in terms of the overall impact of the project and the issues that we as a planning commission would normally analyze. You know, whether they've got divided light or not divided light windows is an aesthetic choice, but I don't think at the end of the day we would not approve a project because of their window pane treatments. So based on the analysis and findings listed in the staff memo, information presented and the input received during the public hearing, I move that the Planning Commission approve the modifications to the design review approval petition TLN PCM 2019-01170 at approximately 2105 South, 2100 East.
I'll second that, and I will also, I don't think these are significant changes, and the big facade along 2100 South has the least amount of changes, and it's fire code or something for take the pergola and stuff off of that. So I'm okay with them. So I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Maureen. I have a motion from Adrian and a second from Maureen. So we will go through a roll call. Maureen,
Yes.
Amy,
Yeah, so this is not the first time that I have been alone, and it probably won't be the last. But I appreciate everybody's input on that, but tonight I'm gonna vote no.
okay. Adrian,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Agree.
John,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Andres.
I will vote yes.
Thank you. All right, the motion passes 6-1. Thank you all. And now we'll move on to item number 3 on our agenda, which is a zoning map and master plan amendment at 203, 221, and 221 East, 2100 South, and 1991 South 200 East. It is PLN, so it's two actual things, PLN PCM 2021-00029 and PLN PCM 2021-00104. And Chris will be making a presentation.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is a request from Chris Lee representing the property owners CTAG LLC and Greenhaven Homes LLC to amend the Central Community Master Plan Future Land Use Map and the zoning map for the properties located at 203 East, 2100 South, 221 East, 2100 South, and 1991 South 200 East. The request would amend the zoning of the properties from RMF 45 moderate high density multifamily residential to FBUN2 form-based urban neighborhood. The request would also amend the Central Community Master Plan future land use map from medium high residential to high mixed use. The applicants intend to develop the 3 parcels into a mixed use multifamily development. The applicant is currently in the process of rehabilitating the old Georgia apartments, which will be included in the project proposal. Early proposal ideas for the project would be to rehabilitate the old Georgia apartments as well as construct new mixed-use residential buildings on the subject parcels, although no specific development plans have been submitted to the planning staff. Staff is recommending the commission forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for the proposed zoning map and master plan amendment. The subject properties are located on the northeast corner of 200 East and 2100 South on the border of Salt Lake City and the city of South Salt Lake. The properties in the surrounding area are zoned primarily for residential or commercial uses. To the north, the properties are zoned moderate high-density multifamily residential and single-family residential. To the east, you will find single-family residential and central business district. Properties to the south, located in South Salt Lake, are zoned commercial corridor and professional office. And the properties to the west are zoned public lands and high-density multifamily residential. Here are some site photos. The top left photo shows the old Georgia apartments currently being rehabilitated. The top right photo shows the property from the corner of 200 East and 2100 South. The bottom left photo shows the undeveloped property at 221 East, and the bottom right photo shows the current house on 1991 South that is proposed to be demolished. These are some photos of some adjacent properties. The top left photo shows some commercial uses to the east. The top right photo shows a commercial office building on the southwest corner of 200 East and 2100 South. Bottom left photo shows the county high-rise apartments It's hard to see, but in the back, there's also a 10-story building that's within the same property on that. And then the bottom right photo shows the Salt Lake County Government Center west of the subject properties. These are the keys to consider when reviewing this request. The first consideration is the existing city plan guidance. The subject property lies within the Central Community Master Plan area. The request aligns with many policies found within this plan. The plan includes several goals for increasing the community's residential density and to provide a variety of housing options that are compatible with the character of the neighborhoods of the central community. The plan suggests the use of residential mixed-use zones to provide residential land uses with support of retail, service, commercial, and small-scale offices, and monitor the mix of uses to preserve the residential component. The plan wants to support small mixed-use development on the corners of major streets that does not have significant adverse impacts on residential neighborhoods, and it encourages mixed-use development that provides residents with a commercial and institutional component while maintaining the historic residential character of the neighborhood. The proposal will help meet the goals found in Plan Salt Lake and growing SLC, which aims to promote infill and redevelopment of underutilized land, addresses lack of housing options in Salt Lake City, and attempts to preserve and enhance neighborhood and district character. The second consideration is compatibility with adjacent properties. For compatibility with adjacent properties, the following factors were considered. And those factors are introducing commercial use of the property, design compatibility, and parking. The purpose of the request is to allow commercial use on the subject properties. The introduction of commercial use could impact adjacent properties. However, given the zoning and current uses of many of the surrounding properties, a negative impact to the area is not expected. Building design was also considered when reviewing the request to amend the zoning designation from RMF 45 to FBUN2. The FBUN2 zone has far more stringent requirements for building form than that required by the RMF 45 zone. The FBUN2 district regulates building features such as entries, facade length, building massing, and step backs, glazing, and building materials. The RMF 45 district does not have these same design standards as those required in the FBUN2. By having stricter design control, a more compatible and better overall design can be achieved. It is important to note also that the FBUN2 zone has a similar maximum height allowed as the current RMF 45 zone. The RMF 45 allows development up to 45 feet. The FBUN2 zone allows development up to 50 feet. However, the FBUN2 zone requires a step back for buildings that exceed a height of 30 feet. They must be stepped back 1 foot for every foot above 30 feet that building goes. Another factor that was considered was parking. For multifamily dwellings in the RMF 45 zone, they're required to have 1 parking space per 1 bedroom and efficiency dwelling units and 2 parking spaces for each dwelling unit containing 2 or more bedrooms. In contrast, the FBUN zoning districts do not require parking spaces for any use type. The potential impact of lessened parking requirements can be minimized by access to public transportation. The subject properties are within walking distance of the UTA S-Line station at 300 East and Parley's Trail. Additionally, there are bus stops on the northeast and southeast corners of 200 East and 2100 South. Having easy access to public transportation can reduce tenant and visitor vehicular dependency. Although no parking spaces would be required in the FBUN2 zoning district, the applicant intends to include parking as part of their development proposal. The intention would be to retain 51 stalls of current parking as well as include underground parking in the new development on the properties. The underground parking would add approximately 55 to 65 parking stalls, bringing the total number of stalls to 106 to 116 stalls. Subject properties with the subject property lies within the boundaries of the Liberty Wells Community Council. Early notification was sent to Liberty Wells Community Council Chair requesting comments for the proposal. The applicant as well as planning staff were invited to attend a community council meeting where the project was discussed. Early notice was also sent out to the property owners and residents within 300 feet of the subject area. As of the publication of the staff report, one comment was received opposing the proposal and one comment was received in favor of the proposal. And again, staff is recommending that the commission forward a positive recommendation to City Council. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Chris. Does anyone on the commission have any questions for Chris at this time?
I do.
Yes, go ahead, Amy.
Chris, I just have a couple of questions. One is, when we talk about the height, and it says a maximum of 50 feet, is that a true maximum, or can they go higher with design review?
So in the FBUN2, that would be a true maximum. There isn't the option for design review to include extra height.
Okay.
There is always the option of a plan development, which allows an extra 5 feet, but the design review does not allow extra height in the FB zones.
Okay. And then I'm curious if there were alternate zones that would allow for commercial use, that, maybe didn't have a 0 front setback or no parking requirements.
So zones like the RMU 45 were considered. However, the applicant wanted to do the FBUN zone just because they felt it would be a better fit with the community because of those requirements for design control that the other zones don't have or are far less stringent than what the FB zones require.
Any more questions, Amy?
Thank you. Go ahead, Matt.
So just when I looked at the table of permitted uses, it seems like there's a lot more commercial applications that are available in in the new zone. Is that correct?
Yes, so the RMF 45 does not allow for commercial, so there would be an introduction of.
And then with the commercial component, I mean, these buildings could be all commercial, correct? They wouldn't necessarily just be they don't have to include a residential component in that new zone.
So they would have to be a multifamily or mixed use. There could be a storefront as well.
Also, there does have to be some sort of residential in that zone, regardless. I'm reading that wrong.
There is a storefront building design, which I don't believe requires residential, but the multifamily mixed use building forms would require residential.
Talk me through a storefront design.
It might be easier to share the design. Let me pull it up on the. So essentially it's going to be similar to that of a mixed use. Let me see if I still have the ability to share. Okay, so this is the requirements for storefront commercial. You'll see a lot of it, I mean, kind of what you would consider your typical storefront to look like. A lot of it does look like your classic vertical mixed use. However, you probably wouldn't have the balconies and that kind of thing.
But you could have said this could be like a storefront, and then you could do office and stuff on top of it. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm asking these questions only because the staff report leans pretty heavily on the needing to expand residential stuff, and that's not necessarily a fully residential zone. And my second question I wanted to ask you about was that why does the master plan, I mean, looking just at the general impact, does the master plan need to be updated?
It does, in the sense the master plan's a little weird because all along 2100 South and in that general area, there's a lot of commercial, but for whatever reason, the subject parcels are zoned for only residential, which is weird, or at least in my opinion is a little weird, because all of the other properties along 2100 South are all zoned for some kind of commercial use. So I'm not sure why those particular properties were zoned differently, but that's just what the map shows is for residential multifamily rather than a mixed use component.
But what does the master plan show, Chris?
The master plan does show just a residential multifamily.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, just for those parcels, and then a couple, like 2 parcels north of the subject parcels are the only ones that are zoned for that type of
the master plan is medium high residential, and we're changing it to high mixed use. Is that
yes?
Right. Yes. I mean, because to me it doesn't seem like the zone change really is that much of an increase to go to a high level intensity, but it just seems like a big, I don't know, it just seems like FBUN2 fits odd to me in that going to that piece, but I guess if you're trying to get rid of the residential.
And maybe the applicant can decide, because can speak to why they applied for FBUN2 instead of RMU 45 or something else, because I know that on 21st South over the years, there's been a lot of sort of spot zoning, I guess, if you will, and master plan changes, where you might see like RMU 45, not generally FBUN2, but it'd be of interest to ask the applicant to kind of share with us.
FBUN2 is pretty unusual in this area, right? We don't have any form-based transit-oriented stuff. Okay, let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and ask the applicant to go ahead and present, or to
Brenda,
to
can I
speak with
ask a
us.
quick question that for the applicant also to address?
Sure.
I just have a question about the current lot coverage of the existing apartments, if they know what that is, and what they anticipate with their future development, what their lot coverage will be.
Thank you.
This is Chris Lee. I am the applicant. Aaron, who is the owner and developer, will do a presentation, speak a little bit more in depth. But just to address that question, why FBUN2 rather than RMU 45 or something like that, one of the major things that we are shooting for is density. We are definitely shooting for residential building in that location. And with the FBUN2 zoning, it allows for much more density as far as the number of units that you can put in the building. So that is one of the things that we were really shooting for. And we also felt that the stringent design guidelines and the required setbacks and the different things that go there would also be better for the existing R1 5000 residential that borders part of the property there.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, Aaron can speak much more in depth at this point.
All right, so let's have Aaron Haga.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, just to answer some of the questions real quick. So Chris Lee is exactly right. The reason why we went for this FB zone was specifically because of density. I think one of the biggest problems that we have in the city is affordable housing. And I took a walk today over at the building, and you're gonna see some of my videos. So my presentation's a video. Now I'm a terrible videographer, just so you know. My kids are wrestlers, and I record their little matches, and they are all over the place. So just if you get dizzy watching my little thing, I'm sorry. But I took a walk and I walked over to the S line to time it, and it's just under 8 minutes from the corner of 2100 South and 200 East to get to the S line station on 300 East there, where you can actually board the train. So with that, I think one of the major things that we wanted with that density is being able to add more units so that people can use the mass transit and make it more of a walkable community. I think you'll see what I'm talking about when we go through that. And that's the major reason why we went for this zone versus the RMU 45. Chris Lee and I both together, we talked significantly about these both of the zones, RMU 45 and also this FB zone. The form-based zone is much better, I think, for what the city is trying to create, and it has created in the Sugar House area. So let me see if I can, let's see, share my screen here. All right. Here we go, sorry. So I don't have permission to share my screen. Is there something I need to do on that?
I have you as the presenter. Just one moment. Oh, that's weird. Let me just switch the ball around.
Yeah.
It says that you're the presenter, Aaron. I'm going to make Brenda the presenter just for a second, and then I'm going to grab the ball back and make you the presenter again.
Hey, Michaela, while you're figuring this out, commissioners, this is John. I just wanted to mention, you kind of mentioned that FBN was kind of rare in this neighborhood. It's, we should remember it is a new zone, so we haven't used it that much, but the city council did approve a zoning map amendment on State Street and 13 South with the same zone recently. And before that, we, I think the other area outside of Central 9th was around Charlie Square, so.
Thank you.
That's right. And there were similar concerns and about, you know, I guess the height around Trolley Square. I was in with that one, and FBUN2. There was no FBUN2 in the local districts or in Central City, but anyhow.
So yeah, I don't know why.
Is it working, Aaron?
It's not. I don't see that I can share my screen on this.
Do you see a little? Are you hitting the share content button?
Let me see here.
So there's two places, Aaron. One would be at the top right. You could hit share, or top left, excuse me. And you should be able to click on my screen. The other area would be down where you can unmute and mute yourself. There should be a mute, start video, and then a share button there. Is your share button grayed out?
Yeah, it is grayed out on the share up at the top. So hold on a minute. Let me see if I can do it.
Chris, do you have the presentation? Chris Lee, do you have it?
Don't. Sorry.
I can email it to you real quick, Chris, if you want. But hold on a minute. Let me try this.
Take your time. We'll take your time here.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Technology.
Okay, if my 6-year-old was here, he would do it. It'd be done. So.
Love that.
I mean, this program can be really glitchy, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's, and that's the world we live in right now, right? It's just how it is. I've done several of these, and depending on the program, it is, when one isn't working, another one is. So. Hold on, it's trying to send this out. All right, so that just sent over to you, Chris, but
Okay.
yeah, for some reason it's not allowing me to share my screen still. So
Send it to Chris Lee 32 or another one.
a different one. I think I sent it to the.
Okay, I'll check my other email. Just 1 second. Okay, I've got it. I'm opening it right now.
All
Okay,
right.
you're the
So
presenter.
I'll just speak to it as it goes. It's just a little short video to kind of give you an idea. So the entirety of this project, and the reason why we're going for the I'll tell you when to start it, Chris, when you're ready. But the reason why we're going for this FB zone is because of wanting to. It allows, again, we're actually making it harder for us to design a product for the neighborhood by going for this zone, because there's more stringent design guidelines. The parking was the biggest issue. The one thing I've learned going through the different developments over the years is, I mean, it's really nice to say, hey, we don't ever have to have parking, but that's not really realistic when people want to go shopping there, especially when you're going to have a retail component on the ground floor level, which we really want. And then you've got people who live there. Now we're becoming more and more of a walkable city, especially with our mass transit, but that's still something that we need to address, some of the parking. I'm sure you guys in the Planning Commission have seen some of the projects that didn't have a lot of parking. It becomes an issue in some areas. And so we want to make sure that we're not going to create that. We're open to also different recommendations from the Planning Commission to say that, hey, you know what, we're okay with this as long as it is a mixed use with residential focus, you know, whatever we have to do in the development agreement to ensure that we get the residential focus on that. I think that's very appropriate, especially with what the master plan is for the city. So anyway, go ahead, Chris, and you can start that anytime.
Okay. I think that I've got it ready to go. I'm pushing play right now. Let me know if you guys are seeing this.
Hey, Chris, you have to hit the share screen button first.
Okay, 1 second. I thought that I had, but let me do that again. How about now?
Right.
Great.
Look, you guys are educating me. Very
nice. There you go.
Okay, I'm pushing play now.
All right. Okay, so here's our little zoning presentation. Again, don't make fun of my skills. They're terrible. So anyway, but this was the old building when we started. As you guys know, this project has been an issue for the city for some time. And so you saw some of the stuff that Chris Earl put in there. This is my walk today. I took this video just to show you an idea of where we're at with the project. Everything in those 45 units is being redone. So we're down to the studs, all new electrical, plumbing, HVAC systems, a much better building, open floor plans. So it'll be a much better place for people to live. We created parking in these parts of the building here to create a lot more spaces for parking. And so you see this building, it's set back significantly from 200 East and 2100 South, which you're going to see this corner. So you've got the building there, and then you have the corner of 2100 South and 200 East that's coming up. And then you have the vacant lot in front. So that's where the new building would be constructed. We're gonna keep the existing 45 units and have that as a part of this development. Those aren't going away, so we're not demolishing the building or anything like that. But this particular corner is what you're going to see where we want the development, and where you're going to see the major change on the new building that would be constructed if we get this FB to zoning. And this is me trying to talk. So in that video. Anyway, so you can see if we build this correctly, we're going to have plenty of parking that we can build underneath the structure. So we can have parking that goes underneath the residential, essentially would be covered parking for the people that would be visiting the retail section of the different places that are going to be there on the ground floor, and for more of the residents there. We also, as you go around the back, we also have parking that goes all the way through here too. When this gets finished, we have parking here on the left, and then another one as well. Additionally, with this, as you get towards the north side of the building, you'll see, again, the lot that we own with that house that we would demolish and we would build additional residences there. We have, that entire lot is actually really deep, so we can put parking underneath all of this as well. That alone adds a good 20, almost 30 spaces when it's constructed correctly. And so I think with the development, when we look at it from a design standpoint, it really is the focus of that corner of 21st South and 2nd East, is doing something with that creates a more community feel. Something like this. This is a building that was approved, that was built. Pause it right here if you can, Chris.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay, those two renderings, the last two that you saw, you guys have seen this because they were approved. I don't know if they're approved, but it's part of the granary district. This particular building would be something that's in Washington State, that would give you a good idea of kind of what we're thinking. So you have the retail component on the bottom, which creates more of a community feel, a walkable community feel with the different retail all along that bottom with the corner anchor, and then you've got residential above. And then go ahead and go to the next there. This one here is these two are similar ones that were renderings that were done by Bridge Capital for their granary project that is being built now. Very similar, where they'll have a restaurant there, they'll have other retail, and then residents above, and then the next picture there, something like that. I think what's happening with 21st South is all the development started up on the eastern end of 21st South and is now coming west. But when you look at, if you take it from State Street up, you have right there on the west in Salt Lake City, you've got the county building. So there's not going to be any other development there with that parking lot and everything else. And then you have 2nd East corner. And so that really is kind of a gateway to the rest of 21st South. And I think as the development from the west end of 21st South and the east end of 21st South starts to merge together, is where we want to make sure we have a nice cohesive feel between the two developments. We can see in places in stuff like this is built quite a bit on the eastern end, over on 13th and 21st and that kind of thing. And frankly, with the last project that we just saw on 21st East and 21st South, this is almost identical to that, with the exception of, I believe it was like 2-story or 3-story building. But anyhow, that would be the reason why we're going for that zone. I think it's important that we start making that cohesive look, and also allowing for the density in the neighborhood, and so that we can meet the needs of the populace. So anyway, any questions?
Thank you, and your time is up, actually. So
okay, great.
Even giving you a lot of extra time for technical difficulties. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the commission if they have any questions before I open up the public meeting.
Just confirming, you're leaving those existing gray buildings in place.
Correct.
You're redoing the interiors, but the exteriors and the heights and all that are staying the same.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we'll have a lot of landscaping to beautify it. We're in the middle of construction now. It won't be done until fall.
So will you develop the corner property on the, it looks like there are at least 3 lots. Are you intending to consolidate these lots?
Yeah, so the intention is I control, so there's 2 different owners. The one on 219, 2100 South will be working together. They'll maintain their own separate lot, but I have the corner of 21st South and 2nd East, and then it goes all the way over to the other lot, which is 1991 South, 200 East. And that lot and my lot will be combined, yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and open the public hearing. and see if we have any people who would like to speak on this project.
Madam Chair, I see two folks on, not with their hands up, but I'm going to just call on them. Joseph, would you like to speak to this matter? Joseph, would you like to speak to this matter? Joseph?
Is this for me?
Yes, would you like to speak during the public hearing?
No, I'm the other property owner Aaron referred to, so I'm
Oh, sorry.
obviously in support. So
Oh,
no,
okay.
All
sorry
right,
if I
thank you.
put my hand up.
Thanks.
So that's fine.
Kelly Oaks. Kelly, would you like to speak to this matter? You're the only other person in the attendee list.
I am also in support of it. I also work with Aaron.
Okay, thanks. There are no other attendees, Madam Chair, and no
Thank you.
emails.
Alrighty then, we will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for discussion or a motion.
My only question, I mean, to me, I'm worried a little bit about commercial encroachment back into that like residential neighborhood. But I don't know how you, I mean, I know the city doesn't like to split zone lots. It seems like that corner parcel or corner area seemed fine with. I mean, the result is probably going to be fine. But just because we're redoing a zone that should be done for a specific project, it seemed like, I don't know if there's any staff has any thoughts or feedback on, can you zone just the corner there? You know, rezone just the corner so they can do more density in that what they're trying to do there in that corner space, but then not the part that kind of goes north along the street.
I have that very same concern, Matt.
I mean, I think that the commission certainly has that ability to make that as a recommendation to the council that you would only want to see a portion of that property zone that way. Another route potentially would be to put conditions on that. On if you make a recommendation for FBO2 on the whole parcel, but then place conditions on what can be constructed there in the future. It's not always our favorite way to plan, but it seems like
That seems to be challenging from a future ownership and development.
So we would, the city council would require that we enter into a development agreement in order to do that.
So for the applicant, I mean, are you seeking this like, you know, FBUN zone largely just for that corner parcel, or is it, do you care about that northern kind of 2/3 of the lot being rezoned or not?
That northern lot being rezoned, so the RMF 45 zone doesn't, so by combining those parcels, I'm limited on what I can do based upon square footage requirements of a lot. So that's one of the biggest problems with RMF zones within the city, which is why the city is going through trying to change that, right? Most of the RMF buildings out there are out of compliance already because of the lot square footage requirements per units. And so keeping that house on the RMF 45 zone, which it currently is, significantly stifles what I can do. Like I can only put like 2 more units on that lot. Combining it, it would be a better solution to combine it and say, okay, that has to stay residential. So we can build, say, maybe 15 to 20 units there, but it needs to stay residential right on that portion on the northern side. And then the commercial would be on that corner and then the residential above with the development agreement. I think that would be more appropriate. And it would also make more sense because it's a difficult balance because we're dealing with, and that's where I think these development agreements, I know it's not a great way to always deal with rezoning things, but it does come into play with odd pieces like this, where you have this trickle effect where it obviously makes sense to have that zone on the corner, but not so much in the back north part of the lot. And so I would be definitely open and amenable to doing something like that.
We have lots that are split zoned. I mean that have 2 zones on them. We usually fix that problem rather than create it. That's my but I have some real hesitancy with the way that this transitions into an existing kind of residential neighborhood with increasing both available commercial, not just, you know, for I mean, because we're rezoning a lot, not necessarily for a project, right? And we're deciding whether or not this zone is appropriate for that area or not.
Sure.
And so even with a development agreement, I think it's helpful, but like it's still, I think it's tied to a title, and I think that complicates a lot from going forward. I mean, it's so much cleaner if we just do it our job and do it right, which is zoning.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can make an argument you should have commercial along 21st South, given everything else that's going along there. I do have I will say it's been a weird deal that we've been allowing commercial and different up zones further kind of without really a plan. It seems like we should have nodes. And I feel like this node between 2nd East and arguably 7th East is more of a lower intensity residential sort of area. But I might be willing to give you the FN, the form-based zone in the corner just to kind of move a residential project forward because it's so important for the city right now. But I do have hesitancy about stretching that zone back towards the north. And if you leave it as one lot, though, what you're saying, if you need the square footage on the lot, even if it's split zone 2 lots, it shouldn't matter to you because we're not splitting the lot. We're just the lot has 2 zones on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I got a question for you, Matt. Don't we want commercial that's walkable, like from a neighborhood?
Do we want what?
Don't we want a walkable commercial area closer to neighborhoods?
But you have all of that all up and down 21st South. And then as you move north off 21st South along 200 East, you move into a residential kind of neighborhood and area where I think you want less of. I feel like you have a lot of walkable area right around there, and I would agree with the applicant that your proximity to the S line and arguably even tracks down 300 West is very, very short. Could potentially a walk or a bike, a short bike ride if necessary, need be, or easy bus trip too. I mean, you seem that you're there's a lot of option there already.
I would, can I speak at this point? Is that all right?
Yes, you may.
I would just also add that, we're really thinking about the residential area there. Who knows what's going to happen 50 or 100 years into the future, but we're putting a lot of money into the existing building right now to renovate it, and we don't see that changing anytime in the future. But even if it does, with the FBUN2 code standards, the impacts to the residential buildings on that side would probably be lessened because of the setbacks that have to happen and the design standards that are in the FBUN2 code compared to the RMF 45 code. And we feel like it's actually a better situation, a better scenario for the residential people that are already there.
So I'm going to agree with that statement. I think it is better for the residents for the future. I think there's only a very small risk that there would be a lot of commercial back in there. And you do have something across the street that's not a single family residential either. The county building is there, and there's quite a node of things going on there. Is there any other discussion?
I would agree with that, Brenda, and the fact that they are renovating those properties. I realize that's not like a true land use consideration for us, but in my mind, that alleviates the concern of large scale commercial encroachment directly behind what is a residential area to the east. So if the city council wants to require a development agreement, I think that would also make sense, but that's up to them to decide. So I would be at this point in favor of forwarding a positive recommendation from the planning commission.
Anyone else want to speak to this before we go ahead and ask for a motion? All right, is there anyone who would like to make a motion? Anyone at all?
I'll do it again.
Okie dokie. Adrian.
All right, based on the findings and analysis in the staff report, testimony, and discussion at the public hearing, I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the proposed zoning map amendment file PLN PCM 2021-00029 for the properties located at 203 East 2100 South, 221 East 2100 South, and 1991 South 200 East from the RMF 45 moderate high density multifamily residential district to the FBUN2 form-based urban neighborhood district and corresponding master plan amendment under file PLN PCM 2021-00104, changing the future land use map designation from medium high residential to high mixed use. That was a mouthful.
That was a big one. I'll second.
Okay, that was a motion from Adrian and a second from John. Is that right? Okay, Maureen,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes, and I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to what you do on the corner, because I think surface parking lots on those major corners are a horrible use of land, and I think you can do something really good there. So yes.
Adrian,
Yes.
Carolyn,
Agree.
John,
Yes.
Matt.
I'll be Amy this time and say no.
Okay. Andres,
This is kind of a tough one for me too. I do see a good plan for you on this one.
was that a no?
Correct. No.
Okay, thank you. So we have 5 in favor and 2 opposed, so the motion passes. And I thank all of you for your attention and time. And unless there is some other business, we are in adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Have a good one.
You too.